So I'll get started off and then I'll hand it over to Emad. So one of the things I think that's important is Siemens is really in a large transformation to change from an industrial company to an AI-based company, where we're really transforming into a data and AI-driven. And that's a big change for us. And so part of what we're trying to do there is, if you look across Siemens, there's more than 700 product teams that deliver software to the market. And historically, those things had different licensing, different foundations, different capabilities. And what we're trying to do with foundational services that I lead is to be able to have a common foundation for all of the Siemens Xcelerator products. So we want to deliver building blocks to the product teams. Those building blocks are for all of the whole suite of Siemens Xcelerator products, which I'll talk some more about. And then what we're also trying to do is to have an outstanding customer experience. And if you have to log into every product separately, if you have different licensing for every product, that's not a great customer experience. And so this is all part of what Roland leads us on the transformation to one tech company. And so Foundational Services is here to support that transformation. Now, if I break down some of the things that we were just talking about there, on the left here, you'll see Siemens Xcelerator. So Siemens Xcelerator is our whole suite of products, and it's how they work together. It's common identity, common licensing, it's a common customer experience, and being able to enable a land and expand sales motion so that once you buy something from Siemens, it's just an obvious choice to buy the second and third thing because it just works together on top of that common foundation. Then in the middle there, you'll see these capabilities that we deliver. SaaS services like identity and data services. In the middle, you'll see edge services and edge application management. And then on the right, developer services. One of the things that we have tended to do is many of the products in Siemens tended to have a separate tool chain for its path to production. How source code was managed, how quality was validated. It was many, many different systems. And one of the things that Roland has chartered us to do is to deliver what's called OASIS, one software engineering system, which would be a tool chain for all software products in the whole company. So that's a big transformation that we're just starting on, but is that third leg of the stool. So when you think about what we do with FDS, we're enabling the businesses can focus on their business value so that we can do the undifferentiated heavy lifting below the covers. Now, when it comes to Envoy, one of the things that we see is in our customer base, when we go talk to their CTOs or their CIOs, they have a very disparate system where the silos of applications don't work together as well as they would like. To move data across the value flow, it too often takes human intervention where humans have to manually move data from system A to system B. And then there can be unplanned outages because maybe if somebody's off that knows how to do these things, you can't do the job, or maybe IT systems go up and down because they're different backends. And so change that you might think should take a day or two can take weeks because of that manual flow of information. So we're introducing Envoy as a way to shepherd that data across these systems and to be able to have human-oriented interactions, but as part of a controlled flow. So if you look at agentic workflow today, you can see great promise and lots of proof of concepts. There's great things out there where somebody will take a small problem and prove what agentic workflow can do. But what we're trying to do with Envoy, which is based on top of AWS Agent Core, is to have a performant, scalable, secure system with governance where you can have that agentic workflow and deliver it as successful enterprise scalable agents that work with the products that you know in Siemens Xcelerator. So Envoy works, it connects to the data sources that you have, it connects to the applications that you know, and it enables customers to deploy those workflows. And if you look at the right-hand side here, we want to make sure there's a focus on configuration over coding. You can, of course, code. There's nothing wrong with coding. We love coding, but as much as possible, we like to enable configuration. Also, there's modularity. There's ability to maximize the customer's return on that. And the customer is free to choose their LLM of choice. We don't force that on anybody. So it's all about leveraging what Microsoft, leveraging what Amazon brings to the forefront of these capabilities, and we build on top of that. So with Envoy, what we're trying to do is, if you look at example product engineering and manufacturing engineering products, we're really focused on four initial offerings. So Design Center, Simcenter, Teamcenter, and Opcenter. What we're trying to do is make sure that we can have workflows that span across those four different applications with a common foundation and the ability to have that agentic workflow that moves data between the products as appropriate in a way that enables that workflow, all built on top of that scalable interface. So on the bottom, you have our foundational services that we deliver, which are built on top of Amazon, which Emad will explain next. And of course, we're built to support DI, SI, and mobility in that capability, so they can work on their application differentiation while we work on the non-differentiated heavy lifting. Emad, you want to talk about what we've done together?
Sure, yeah. So we start our journey like a year ago. And during this time, we actually start to introduce to Siemens the new Agent Core services. That Agent Core help, actually accelerate the agent development with a multi-agent orchestration. So we planned for a workshop with Siemens in Pune. And the first week on that workshop was actually focused to let the team experiment with Agent Core and learn about Agent Core capabilities. The week after that, we bring the ISW, we learn about their use cases, and we start develop agents. So within 1 week, we developed 9 agents, including an agent orchestration layer as well with Agent Core. During that time in the workshop, also we identify some gaps in our service. We help, to bring AWS service team to learn about those gaps and identify how we're going to move forward on the next step. In addition to that, we bring ProServe. We have a program called Resident Architect. So this will help to actually move along with Siemens to make it in a production level, kind of. So that architect work almost on a daily basis with your team to identify any kind of development bottlenecks or so that we can elevate this. So during that design phase, we have few kind of design principles. We start with configurability. We don't need the Siemens developer to actually update their code every time there is a new large language model or a new kind of configuration. So based on that, developer doesn't have to actually to update their code, but update their configuration. So that configuration could basically be swapping large language model, or it could be adding a configuration for Bedrock guardrail based on their use cases. And then if we look back on AI agents compose of a brain, which is the large language models, also include memory, and in addition to that, also include tools. So for memory, Agent Bedrock provides you with short-term and long-term memory. And there is a lot of work under the hood, to transfer short-term memory to long-term memory and consolidate this into a long-term memory. So we leverage Agent Core memory for memory interactions. And in addition to that, also Siemens FDS built their own solution with S3 and OpenSearch as well. And then with the extendability, those agents require to have some tools. Think about it as your hands and and feet. We have the NCP integration to integrate with data sources, with API, and with any other tools. And then we also have Amazon Event Bridge to integrate with other services as well. And then for security and governance, we have the Agent Core guardrail, or Bedrock guardrail. We also have the Agent Core evaluation to evaluate those kind of performance of the Agent Core. And then we have observability, which provides you with all traceability from invoking the large language model to do this kind of the interaction with large language model and reasoning. So all of this is actually available as logs for the team to actually look at it and see how we're going to improve the agent. And,
so Emad, I'd like to make a comment on that too, because when you look at all of those capabilities from Amazon, with Envoy, we're trying to unleash those capabilities into the Siemens products. Yeah. We're not trying to protect the products from Amazon services. We're not trying to isolate them. We're trying to make it even easier to adopt and even easier to leverage. So in no way, shape, or form is Envoy trying to protect the Siemens developer from these. We're really trying to unleash them, which is really our attitude across all the foundational services. We use a ton of Amazon calls in our product offering, and we're not trying to protect the product teams from them, but we're just trying to make sure that we leverage all of that to deliver a multi-tenant, highly scalable, cloud scalable offering to support all of the Siemens Xcelerator offerings.
Right. And it's all configurable, so through your API interface, you can select what large language model you can configure it the way that you like, what guardrails and so
Right.
on, So it's very simple to use. So with Agent Orchestration Service, your team stop building infrastructure and focus more on start building intelligence. And that's actually the main role of Envoy platform. So with that foundation AI services, it makes reliable, scalable, and secure. Now we're not talking about roadmap, we're talking about a solution and a service already in production today.
Right.
And
So-
already adopted by many business units.
Yeah,
right?
we've got at least 4 examples where products are using it in production, and we will continue to make it available to all the rest of the Siemens Corporation, because we don't want every product team to have to be making this investment time and again. We'd like to make it once and then leverage that investment across the Siemens Xcelerator portfolio.
Right, and we're looking in the future to actually innovate more with Siemens.
Right.
Not just on AI, but on other services as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.